2. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our June 12th Zoom mini class. Woohoo! Father's Day is getting close. I mean, I'm flabbergasted that we are almost halfway through June. And you know what? I guess I start this this mini class off the same way every week because I'm just amazed at how time is flying. But Father's Day is just around the corner. And so today I thought I would show you this fun little card, and it's not new. You've probably seen it before. I think last year Alexis did this as one of her created 8, or at least a version of this. But we're going to make this cute little suit card, and then we're going to turn it into a pocket so that the shirt itself can pull out and become its own little card within the card. And as we were, chatting before I started the recording here, you can use this beyond Father's Day. You could do it in really crisp, pearlized black with a nice white shirt and put a bow tie on it, and maybe it's for wedding or some kind of black tie event. You can dial it down and do the outer jacket in denim and with a lumberjack type buffalo check pattern in the back to make it really casual. You could do it if you could make it look like a vest with a plaid shirt underneath so it looks like it's a fishing outfit. There's so many ways that you can dial this up and dial this down and really have fun with it. We did have a bit of a contention in the house. Matt said, why is it that everybody thinks that for Father's Day you need shirts with ties and jackets, and that's what every dad looks like? And that's definitely not the case. And the colors I'm going to use are going to be really fun and casual. I'm not going to put a tie on, but you're more than welcome to do so. And for those of you who may be scrapbookers, if you are watching this, you could use this as an element on your layout. Instead of a photo, you could put that in place of that photo on your layout and have your journaling pull out, or maybe this card pulls out and reveals more photos. So just because we're showing this as a Father's Day example, absolutely does not mean that it has to be used for Father's Day. I have also seen versions of this where they created more of a sweetheart neckline and put a lady's shirt on the inside. You could round up or scallop the corners and make this a ladies card. So maybe it's somebody who's gotten a new job, or maybe they're retiring and they say, okay, you don't have to wear this outfit anymore. Try to think outside the box and think of all the different ways you can use this format just by switching up your paper. So without further ado, we are going to jump in and have a chat and start creating. If you are joining us late into the live recording, please make sure you mute yourself. If you have any questions, you can always unmute and just shout out your questions, or I do have the chat open in case you feel more comfortable doing it that way. If you're watching us on replay, of course, please feel free to pause, rewind, rewatch, do what you need to do. So to get started, I have not cut my paper yet. If you followed the homework and have your paper already cut, fantastic. Bear with me a minute as I cut my paper. I have chosen today, because I'm going to take this idea and go a little bit more bright and fun. I have red cardstock, and don't ask me what brand this is because it's just out of my stash. And then I have this fabulous plaid paper from Photoplay. And the reason why I liked this one and why I chose this one is because I do also like the flip side. So when we see the collar peeking through, I wanted to make sure that both sides looked appropriate, shall we say. So I'm going to quickly cut down my card base for my jacket, which is going to be 5.5 inches tall by 8 3/4 of an inch wide. So let me do my 5 3/4 first. Move everything out of the way. 5 3/4. And I'm going to hang on to this, and I'm going to hang on to any scraps, because if you want to embellish with little pockets or extra little things, we can do that at the end. So that was 5.5, but now I'm second guessing myself. No, I did 5 3/4. I meant to do 5.5. See what happens when I get talking. All right, so 5.5 by 8 3/4. Keeping all the scraps for right now. While I have my paper trimmer, I am also going to cut my shirt piece just so that I have it ready to go, and then we can put the paper trimmer away. I need to cut a piece that is 4 inches wide by 10.5 inches long. And because I can go in any direction, I'm just going to cut it off the top here. 4 inches. Don't need that, by 10.5. Easy peasy. So again, keeping my scraps, keeping everything handy. I'll put my little ones over there, my big ones over there, and my paper trimmer is done. Sorry, I was just about to sneeze. It may still come, so I apologize in advance. The joys of live TV. Okay, next is our scoreboard. We're going to score our jacket. Okay, that's for folding, that's for scoring. We can see, just trying to make room here. There, we can see nicely now. Okay, I'm going to take my red paper and put it in my scoreboard horizontally. Now, as I'm looking here at my prototype, there's no reason why you have to do the jacket as the thing that's a solid color. You could absolutely do your jacket as the pattern paper and do a solid color shirt as well. When you're doing your scoring, so what you want shown on the outside should be face down. Again, with my cardstock, it doesn't matter, but say you had like a plaid on this side and a solid on this side, you'd want that, what do you want on the inside, or in this case, the collar facing up. So we are going to score at 2 1/4 of an inch. And this is very similar if we were making a gatefold card. I have modified it just a smidge so that when the flaps fold over, they do overlap. So we can just tack that down and make sure it stays closed. So we're going to do 2 1/4, and we're going to do 6.5, which is essentially 2 1/4 of an inch from the right side in. So 2 1/4 on the left side, 2 1/4 on the right side, which is 6.5. And that's our first set of score marks. Now we need to make some little tick marks and some little score marks in order to make our collar. So we're going to focus on the left-hand side first. I'm going to just use a pencil. You could also use your scoring tool to make a little bit of a notch, but I'm going to snug this right back up in the corner, and I'm going to make a tick mark at 1 inch. I don't know if you can hear me, hold that up. So just that little tick mark at the 1 inch mark. And I want to make a tick mark at 2.5 down this side. Now you can either flip it around if you want, or I do have measurements here on the left side of my scoreboard. So I'm just going to make a little tick here at 2.5. And then this is where we use our little lines, or if you're using your paper trimmer, and I am going to score from one little tick mark down to the other one. Now, if you're a little bit off, do not worry. This measurement and this score line does not have to be perfectly precise. It's just to allow us to fold that over to make our collar on our jacket. Now we have to do the other side. And this is where It might get a little bit tricky because we can't just, so we could go back an inch and do all kinds of math, but I'm just going to flip it over and do this one on the other side. So a tick mark at 1 inch, a tick mark at 2.5, and join them up. In this case, we'll flip it back over. You'll be flipping it this way. At this point, if you wish, you can go ahead and erase those tick marks so that they do not show. But mine, for the most part, seem to be hidden under my collar, so I'm not too fussed about that. Is everybody following on along okay? Seeing some head nods, seeing some thumbs up, so I think we're good here. Let me know. Please always feel free to let me know if I need to go over something again. But that is our basic scoring for our jacket. 4 simple folds, and then we'll fold in those flaps, fold out the collars, and we'll be ready for gluing. While I have my scoreboard out, I'm going to go ahead and score my shirt piece as well, just so that way I can then put away my tool and have a nice clear workspace. Okay, so we have our shirt piece, which is 4 inches by 10.5. We just need 2 really easy score marks. I'm going to turn it horizontal, and I'm going to start by scoring at 5.5. And I don't know why I chose the middle score to do first, but I'm just going to do that middle score at 5.5. And I'm going to come back to the top and do it at half. So your 2 score lines are at 1/2 inch and 5.5. And what that should leave you with is, if you fold on that 5.5 inch mark, that bottom piece should come up and meet that score line. This little 1/2 inch panel here is what we're going to cut down in order to make the collar and do that fun little treatment. So at this point, your edges should not match. You want that little bit of an overhang left over. And that's it for scoring. So I'm going to put my scoreboard away. Which of course things slid down, so it doesn't fit in my little cubby anymore. I'll have to fix that afterwards. And I'm going to come back to my pieces and just use my ergo bone folder to really give these a good crease. With your collars, it's up to you whether you want to glue and tack them down. For right now, I'm going to leave them, but towards the end, I may just take a little bit of liquid glue and just tack them down so they stay flat, but it is not necessary. Okie dokie. Oh, and I'll do this one too. So I'm going to do this one. And I do want to fold on this line. And at this moment in time, you don't need to decide which side is going to be your shirt and which side is going to be your collar. You can easily flip those around as you see fit. We'll see how that all works out. Alrighty, we are back to our jacket. It is time for glue. I am going to use my super skinny 3mm score tape. You absolutely can use liquid glue if you prefer. I'm using the skinny stuff because there's just a really tiny overhang here, and I want to leave as much room in my pocket for my tag. So I just want to keep everything as thin and close to the edge as possible. But you decide whichever glue you prefer to use. If you're using liquid glue, you just want to make sure you hold it a little bit longer and so that it sticks and stays tacky as it sets. Okay, I'm going to open up my card. And along the bottom here, do I need to do it all the way? You know what, for good measure, I'm going to do a strip all the way across the bottom because these are going to fold over and make that pocket, and I want it super, super strong. I'm going to put my tape on, but I'm not going to peel the backing just yet. There's the end. So right along the bottom, as close to the bottom as you can get. And this thin stuff is so easy to tear. I can just tear it off. I don't need scissors. Before I peel the backing and stick it down, I'm also going to run. So I'm going to do my right panel on the top. So I am going to run just a thin line of my tape from the corner of my collar down to the bottom of the card. And I'll bring it up closer in just a sec. Okay. So if my card is like this, I just want a thin line of tape from the corner of my collar down to the bottom. That's going to hold that tight. Trust me, it's much easier to put the tape on now than after you've got it closed down. Now, if you are using liquid glue, you might want to wait until afterwards. So if you're using liquid glue, you might want to glue this side down, then put your glue on and then peel it over that way. You know, there's always lots of ways to do it. You just have to kind of think through your process before you put the glue on so it doesn't get too messy. So I'm just going to peel my whole strip. Left side first, right side second. And actually, before I close that down, let me grab this. Oh. That backing's being tricky there. Okay, make sure your collar is down and close. And from a mechanism standpoint, that is all you need to do to create your pocket. Like I said, if you want to take a little bit of liquid glue, and this is starting to annoy me a little bit, so I'm just going to take a little daub of liquid glue, of course, if it's not clogged. Always have a backup. And close it down. Close it down. Just so it lays nice and flat for you. We'll come back to decorating the front of this when we're done. The tag for the inside, but that's really where you get to have fun. You can put buttons down here. You could doodle in a little zipper. You can put a pocket on like I have done over here. And I'll show you a couple of different ways that we can do some little embellishments for that. But for right now, let's move on to our shirt. So our shirt, just like in my prototype here, is just going to be a little flappy card, as I guess is the right way. We're just going to open it up. It's not another pocket, though you absolutely could make it another pocket if you wanted to put a gift card in there or another message. It could be like those stacking dolls where they all just kind of nest and nest and nest in there. But for right now, we're just going to make it a flappy card. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to flip to the orange side just so that you can see a little bit better. We do need to make a few little cuts to make our collar. So what we're going to do is we are going to measure in 1/4 of an inch from the left side and 1/4 of an inch in from the right side, which is 2 3/4. To show you what we're doing. So we're going 1 1/4 inches in here, 1.25 inches in here, and we're just going to make a little tick mark. If you can get it right down on the score line, that'll be the best. So I'm just going to do a little circle there and a little circle here. And again, precision is not mandatory, but in this case, scissors are. And I have lost, oh, there they are, my scissors. So you can see I've got my 2 little tick marks, and I'm just going to snip along that score line to that little tick mark. And the same thing on this side. And then this is the easiest and most fun part, is that all you're going to do is you're going to, now, so I have flipped it over. In this case, I am going to have a plaid shirt with an orange collar. So I'm going to just fold this in like this, just on a slight angle. And I'm going to fold this one in to match. And voila, you have your collar. And you know what? It's okay that that score line went all the way across and we were playing with it. Folding these little guys over helps to stabilize that. So I have no worries that this is going to be too flimsy or it's going to flip off. It's just going to be nice and snug. So a little bit of my liquid glue right here. And hold it to set. And if you want to put a little bit of glue underneath as well, you can. Just a little dab will do ya, as we used to say. And now, that's all you need to do. So I'm going to tuck this in here, make sure everything fits nice and snugly. And here you've got your fancy schmancy little jacket card. You could put sentiments on the inside. You could even put a sentiment on the outside. So for finishing touches, I grabbed my white gel pen. And depending on the style of shirt, maybe you want to do, depending on the style of jacket, maybe you want to do some little faux stitching marks along the side of your collar. And all I'm doing is just a little dash, dash, dash. I am so not precise. I don't use a ruler. I freehand this. I like the white on that red there, but if you're using a lighter color shirt, you could always use a black pen or a colored pen. Maybe I'll even do a little bit of stitching down where the lapels of the jacket overlap. And then this is where, if you have gems or enamel dots. So I've got these pearls from Graphic 45. I don't think it's quite the right style for my jacket, but I could attach buttons. I don't know if you can, here, I'll try to get it without the, you could attach buttons down there. You could also use your Nuvo drops. And so I'm going to keep with the white. I'm going to give my coat some white buttons. Make sure it squeezes out properly. There we go. So I'm just going to do some buttons. And maybe these buttons are too small and too close together in hindsight, but the idea is there. I'm just going to let those sit for a second, because I do want to try something. I had an idea, but I want these to set for a little bit so that they get their nice dome shape. Time for a pocket. So what I did to make my pocket over here is very much free-handed. Come on. I started with a 1x1 square, or maybe I did 1 1/4. I'm going to do 1 1/4 square. And then I simply cut off the corners. And there is my pocket. Let me give it some stitching around the pocket. So there's my pocket, and I took just a rectangle out of my pattern paper, cut it into, I guess you could do a square as well. Maybe a square is better. I had a little bit of trouble, I will totally admit, with the handkerchief, and you just kind of have to play with it. So I've made myself a little triangle, just folded it in. Sorry, that sneeze was about to come back. So maybe that handkerchief is a little bit small, so let's, and this is where you just have to play and figure out what works for you. So we'll give him a double handkerchief. Right there in his little pocket. A little bit of glue. So there's his little pocket. Make sure it sticks nice and good. And a foam square right behind there. And there you go. And you can keep on playing and creating all kinds of fun little things. Maybe I put some stitching across here too. You could get really fancy and do a little embroidered pattern. You could have so much fun. Okay, I'm going to try something here with my Nuvo drops. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm just going to grab a pen. If I had my stylus with me, I would probably use that. Kind of want something that's not inky. Okay, I'm going to use, nope.
Pen.
What have I got in my stash here? You know, I'm going to use my X-Acto knife. And I'm going to see what happens if I just, while this Nuvo is drying, no, it's still too wet. What I was going to try to do, and maybe I will try it later and post a picture, is I was going to try to use the point to poke little buttonholes into my Nuvo drops, but they're still not quite dry. So it's not going to work for today, but you know, sometimes you just got to try stuff. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that you try on your finished project like I just did. Try it on some scrap paper first, and then have lots of fun. So ladies, that is it for me today. Thank you for joining us. Hope you had fun making your Father's Day card or graduation card or wedding card, however you decided you wanted to decorate this. And I would love to see what you make. So feel free to take pictures and post in our Papercrafts Inner Circle on Facebook. Wendy's asking, could I use a pin? I could try. Again, I was hoping I had a really small ended stylus, which I left mine at home. And again, I think my Nuvo drops just weren't dry enough yet. You want them almost set, so you can just kind of push that little dimple into place. I will play with it a little bit and let you know what I find out. So please join us and look on YouTube for any of our replays from these Zoom mini classes. This will get uploaded momentarily, and really excited to see what you all make with this. Thank you so much.